I want to welcome everybody to post-game coverage here for the Iowa State women, and what a game for Caitlin Clark. We're going to talk about the performance this evening. A lot to get to, and appreciate everybody being here. Just under 100 people already on here with me this evening, so appreciate that, and we'll get the call-in line jumping here in a second. But first, want to give our adieu to Iowa Smokehouse. They're proud sponsors of the show this evening, and if you haven't enjoyed the snacking fandom that is Iowa Smokehouse, be sure to do that if you're a Hawkeye fan, folks, and it supports the cause here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Visit iowasmokehouse.com to browse their selection of beef jerky, meat sticks, steak bites, ketchups, barbecue sauces, and more. You'll never need to look anywhere else for game day snacking. Use the code Hawkeyes at iowasmokehouse.com for 15% off your total order. That is a code exclusively through the show here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Iowa Smokehouse, tasting is believing. So the Iowa Hawkeye women go to Hilton Coliseum and get a 67-58 win. And yes, I was there this evening. A lot to take away from this game. This is a game that if you compare it, I think, to what we saw a couple of weeks ago against Kansas State, I thought it was very similar in the way the game was played. I thought the game was played at Iowa State's pace. Iowa had issues with some physicality down low. You look at the rebounding numbers, they don't really reflect that. But Iowa State did not shoot the ball well overall. That is not why Iowa State was in this game. They shot for the game. Iowa State shot 34.4% from the field, 25% from three, 75% from the free throw line on 12 attempts. The problem was Iowa struggled to shoot as well, and we don't often say that. 35% from the field for the Hawkeyes, 29% from three. They were really good from the free throw line, and that was a big difference in this game. 14 free throw makes on 15 attempts for the Hawks. And, browsing the stats, we'll get to this right away, and I'm anxious to get all of your thoughts as well. And by the way, the phone line is now open. If you're new to the show, the number to call in is 515-635-1601. You can also click the link in the description. I also threw it up in the live chat. It's a little StreamYard link. You can sign in with Facebook, YouTube, and chat with me on StreamYard. But you browse the box score here, and first of all, eerily similar to what we saw against Kansas State on a number of levels. A, just being the low score. When's the last time we've seen Iowa score just 67 points? Well, what'd they score against Kansas State? I think it was close to 64 points. Or 67 points, excuse me. Against Kansas State, they scored 70. Excuse me, that's the second game against Kansas State. They scored 58 against Kansas State in a loss. 65-58 was the loss in Iowa City to Kansas State. So very similar when you look at the numbers. Okay. Now, they beat Virginia Tech back in Charlotte. But again, given what Iowa normally does as far as points, you could call Virginia Tech a bit of an outlier. They scored 80 points, which is actually below their average, significantly below their average. 80 points against the Hokies, won that game. But you look at the box score against Virginia Tech, very similar. Caitlin Clark in that game took 31 shots, 13 makes. 31 shots, 13 makes against Virginia Tech. Iowa as a whole kind of struggled from the field, 41%, not terrible. Shot just 23% from three in that game. Found a way to win away from home. Now, Kansas State was the opposite. They're playing at home. And once again, Caitlin Clark takes 32 shots. She was 2 of 16 from three, 9 of 32 from the field. As a team, Iowa shot 36%. Did not shoot very well from the free throw line that day, 67%. And they lose to the Wildcats tonight. Caitlin Clark's stats. She is, by the way, our RTI Threads player of the game. But here are Caitlin Clark's stats this evening. 35 points, 12 of 31 from the field, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 turnovers. She had, how many three-point makes? 6 of 16 from three, made all 5 of her free throws. So they've won, you could argue they've won 2 of the 3 games that have looked like this, right? That's how good this team is. That's how good Caitlin Clark is. Now, I would argue that Iowa State is not what they have been, right? With the departures of the gal who transferred down to North Carolina. They lost, of course, Ashley Jones. This is not necessarily the same team that it has been, but Bill Finley's a really good basketball coach, and you know that team's only going to improve. Audie Crooks was really good tonight at times. But my point is, you're playing with fire when you get one other player in double figures, and that's Caitlin Clark, or excuse me, Kate Martin, who I don't know how many of her points came in the final few minutes, but I think she was definitely teetering on double figures before that final spurt. Here are some of the other numbers across the board. Sharon Goodman, 2 points on 3 attempts. Molly Davis, 2 points on 3 attempts. Gabby Marshall, 0 points on 5 attempts. Sydney Falter, 7 points, 1 of 3 from the field. She gave them a lot on the other end and on the glass. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Hannah Stolke, 5 points, coming off the injury, 1 of 4 from the field. Addison O'Grady played just 3 minutes, no points. Kyla Feuerbach was 0 for 1. Taylor McCabe 0 for 1. They're not going to be able to beat the best teams in the country playing like that consistently. All right. Now they beat Virginia Tech. And as I mentioned, that box score I don't think was as stark. They shot a little bit better in that game. As I mentioned, Caitlin did take 31 shots, played all 40 minutes against the Hokies, but they did add 12 from Hannah Stolke. They got 10 from Kate Martin. They had 8 from Kylie Feuerbach. And as a team, they shot 41%. So shot a little bit better and managed to win that game. That's a good Hokies team they beat back in November. But I tweeted this out during the game. First of all, great win. Right? Anytime you can go to Hilton Coliseum, great win. Tough place to play. That place was rocking this evening. It was packed. Now, there were a lot of Iowa fans, but there were still more Cyclone fans and Hawkeye fans in that arena. But I tweeted out during the game, and this applies, I think, basically to any game. 30-plus shot attempts for Caitlin Clark is not a recipe for success, and I stand by that. And that may not be a popular opinion. People may not like me saying that. I love Caitlin Clark. She's obviously generational. That's why she's our RTI Threads player of the game. They don't win without Caitlin Clark tonight. I think we can all understand that. And there's probably a lot of games where they don't win with Caitlin Clark, but she needs help. And there are times where I'll say this, Caitlin Clark at times takes too many shots. That's what I feel. Now, you can't really knock her when she's stepping back and knocking down 28-foot shots with a hand in her face. If they go in, they go in, right? It's like Steph Curry. He shoots a shot from just inside the half-court line. You're like, well, it went in. What are you going to say? That's kind of how I feel about Caitlin Clark. But there are times where I'm like, man, she shoots too early in the shot clock. She forces shots. She's trying to go through contact and draw fouls, and you're not going to get every foul call on the road. So how do you balance that as a coach? That's not a job I envy for Lisa Bluder. And obviously, Lisa's given Caitlin. I mean, how do you not give her the green light? You've got to give her the green light. But I will be curious moving forward, how many more of these types of games do we see where Caitlin Clark shoots 31 times? I just don't think that is a recipe for success. They won tonight, and I give Kate Martin credit. She made some big plays late. Iowa was down late. And coming out of a timeout, credit to the coaching staff, and drew up a couple of plays. I thought Iowa really made a concerted effort to Caitlin made a concerted effort to drive to the cup, and doing that instead of just settling for outside shots off the dribble, she was able to drive, penetrate, kick, find her teammates. Kate Martin was moving well without the ball there late in the game, and that really helped the cause. And they ran away with it in the last couple of minutes. But this was a nail biter throughout. And again, game was being played at Iowa State's pace. I thought Iowa State won the battle inside. Points in the paint this evening, Iowa State winning that category 24-20. Iowa State also winning on rebounding narrowly, 43-42. It's interesting. Iowa has a knack for somehow competing in that category in spite of often losing the battle overall. Iowa, I give them credit. This is a stat that surprised me, and I looked at this stat during the game. Just 9 turnovers for the game. It's pretty darn good, folks. That's pretty darn good. Now, Iowa didn't get to play as fast as they normally do. That's a factor. But on the road, raucous environment, this is a team in Iowa that even when they do play really efficiently, they turn the ball over. It's just the nature of it. They're going to turn the ball over. And both these teams played pretty clean. 11 turnovers for Iowa State, 9 for Iowa. A few too many down the stretch for the Cyclones. But Caitlin Clark is our RTI Threads player of the game, and they're not winning this game without her. I don't know who else you would name player of the game. Maybe Kate Martin. She ended up, like I said, with 16 points, 6 of 12 from the field, made some big shots late, but they need more help. And Molly didn't play great tonight. I'd have to go back and look at the film, what they did to kind of make things difficult for her. She's been better recently of driving and kicking and driving and scoring, finding her spots. Again, the whole conversation we've had about Gabby Marshall continues. Let's get to our first caller. We've got a couple people waiting on hold. Our line is still open. Our phone line is open, 515-635-1601. Let's first go to our Iowa Smokehouse caller on hold. DW is here. DW, welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Corey?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Good. Hey, you already one of the things I wanted to talk about, what I observed in the game, in my version of it, and that's when the rest of the team is playing for big hit shots, as
Okay.
you mentioned.
Real quick, I cannot hear DW. Is anybody else with me? Raise your hand if you're in the queue and you cannot hear DW. It was making a really weird muffled sound. So DW, I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's not your end, but if you could just leave the studio, come back, or maybe check your mic. Let's see if we can get to another caller. We'll come back to you. I just could not understand anything of what you were saying. It was just very garbled. So let's try to go to our next caller. We've got our next Iowa Smokehouse caller. Corey's on hold. Corey.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay, your mic sounds normal. And your dog. Good.
Yeah, he's chilling in the back, man. I'll tell you what, it's a Hawkeye State. Always has been a Hawkeye State. Let's go. Let's good road win.
Well,
good road.
Real quick. It's a Hawkeye State. Definitely a Hawkeye State in women's hoops. We got a big game tomorrow night on the men's side.
I know it.
Let's hope we can. Let's hope it's a good night in Hilton that night.
I'm hoping to bring out my broom, maybe clean the house up a little bit. Just
would love a sweep. Wouldn't that be nice?
Oh, that'd be sweet. I just got a bunch of Iowa State family friends, and just always got to stick it to them.
And when's the last time? I have to go back and look at it. Maybe it was more recently than I'm thinking. But when's the last time Iowa has?
It's probably been a minute.
in the major sports in
Yeah,
eight in 1 year.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's probably been a minute.
Yeah, they got a
I
chance
can't
to
imagine how long. I can't imagine how long that's been because usually they always get us in basketball. But maybe this could be our year. Both teams are kind of up in the air.
Be fabulous,
I would say, as far as the men's go. But
the men need to perform well tomorrow after what happened Monday. They just got to.
That was a rough one, But,
and Hilton's been a bit of a house of horrors of late. At least last matchup 2 years ago was very
right. No, I think we can. I think we can get him tomorrow night. But as far as the women's tonight, I was only able to catch like the second half. But it just seemed like a lot of gritty performance, even though things weren't going well. They were finding ways to. I don't know how to. It just seemed like they were. I don't know. It just seemed like they wanted it a little bit more at times, and I really think Falter should get more minutes. I think she was bringing a lot of the energy off.
Yep. ZJ said the same thing. I think Sydney Falter right now is deserving of more minutes, and I was hesitant.
Absolutely, more minutes.
I was hesitant to maybe say that initially because Gabby is so experienced, and Sydney was not necessarily as much of an offensive threat last year. She's giving you so much as it relates to rebounding.
Yeah, she's giving you that effort on defense. I think that
she's giving you steals. She's giving you pretty good post defense when she's been called upon.
Yeah.
I think she needs to play more. I just and frankly, look, here's the deal. Like Iowa, the men, you can't. If Peyton Sanfort's in a slump, you cannot afford to just sit him. Like you've got to just let him shoot his way out of it because you don't. Like he's your best shooter. Caitlin Clark's in a slump. You're not going to bench Caitlin Clark. No. But I think with Gabby Marshall right now, like what we have is an evidence-based assumption, and the coaches know the situation better than we do. But maybe bringing her off the bench for a while, I mean, that's a big step for an older player, a veteran player, a leader, a captain. But I mean, she's just not making shots, and she had several wide open threes tonight. Yeah. You got to knock those down. That's what you're on the floor.
You got to knock the open ones down. Yep. Did they ever say what was wrong with Stuelke? Did they ever come out with?
Well, she was dealing with an ankle injury heading into the game.
Okay, I never heard, so I was just curious what was going on with.
Yeah, she'd been wearing. I believe she'd been wearing a boot. She had that issue. I believe it was against Florida Gulf Coast down in Florida. And
I had never heard. I had never heard anything come on. I just had not been paying that close attention. But
and she sat out Saturday. It sounded like she maybe could have played Saturday. She did not start this evening, and I thought she brought it late. There was late in the game, her defense. I thought she kind of ratcheted it up a little bit, and I thought Sharon Goodman kind of followed suit.
Getting her back and going at the pace I think we know she can be will bring this team up that much more.
Yeah, and she played on the night. She played just 13 minutes, so she's not full go yet.
And outside of Caitlin, I think Kate Martin is a huge anchor for this team too. I think she really brings it. I think she's kind of the second piece, the key to all this, even working on the field.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And if Kate Martin doesn't, make the play she made late in the game, he may not
absolutely win. No, I think she came up very keyed off Caitlin, which I think is why it worked. Because she drew that attention and then it was able to get those back cuts.
Kathy in the chat, why so little of Feuerbach and McCabe? That's a good question. I don't have the answer for you.
That's valid.
What's that?
It could be a matchup thing. Maybe, but I doubt it. I don't know.
Based on the results, that's a fair. I know everybody kind of views Gabby Marshall as kind of the hound dog, or I should say the bulldog on defense. But I see pretty good perimeter defense when I watch Kylie Feuerbach. I haven't seen enough of Taylor McCabe to really make that statement. And Sydney Falter can guard several positions. But if Gabby's not knocking down shots, then absolutely, Feuerbach, McCabe, and Falter all need to look at more minutes. And that doesn't mean you give up on Gabby, but what is she giving you? We've said this how many times in the past. What is she giving you if she's not making threes? Giving you some defense on the other end. But you need your role players to be able to knock down shots.
Well, and I think, it's not for every player, but sometimes getting that hit on the bench and, If you're a team player, you'll uplift your, backup, or you'll uplift whoever's come in to replace you, because if it gives the best team, if it gives the team the best chance to win, she'll either rally behind it or it'll motivate her to be better, to be on the floor in key minutes.
Sure. Yeah. No, I agree with you. And Kathy brings up 31 of their 63 total shots taken tonight. That's a lot.
No, it's got to be more
the other
balanced.
part of that, I'm not going to go compare stats right now, and I just got back to my home base to start the show up, so I haven't really delved into the box scores yet.
Yeah.
But here's the deal, Corey. You take a look at Iowa's stats as a team. They had 63 field goals made, 13 assists. That number needs to be a lot higher.
Yeah.
Especially this team. Like just the way they play and getting out in transition, that's an indication right there. There's not enough ball movement. There's not enough. I mean, this is just right now.
You're forcing Caitlin Clark to play hero ball, and that's not a winning recipe.
And here's the thing: this is what's weird about it is it seems to be very much matchup based, because now Bowling Green is not Iowa State. I get that, but they've played other teams like Kansas State a little over a week ago on the second matchup against Kansas State, where I thought they did a much better job getting out in transition, and I thought everybody was hitting shots down in Florida. So, it's just working through the kinks. But these are the times when Iowa's going to be vulnerable, when other players are not hitting shots and Caitlin starts forcing it a little bit.
Yeah, when it can get out of get out of hand a little bit when it comes down to that area. As far as like forcing shots, it just never quite works for her.
Yeah.
But
I appreciate you and the doggy calling in this evening, and
appreciate it. Always have a good night, and we'll talk to you later.
Appreciate it, Corey. Sports News says, Corey, why did you take a while to start the stream? Why did you take a while to start? Well, first of all, I was at the game. There's excuse number one. And second of all, I had to eat after the game. I'm not a machine. I did not eat at the game. Not that I refuse to eat at ball games, but I try to give as little money to Iowa State as possible. No, I'm just joking. But no, I did not eat the game. That's basically the answer. I was at the game and then I had to eat afterwards. So took a little bit of time to do that. Yes, Jesse, please. Thank you for the reminder, Jesse. If you're on here, folks, you got about 200 people watching right now. Please remember to hit that like button. It does help. And that's one way you can support the show. Another way you can support the show, folks, is by supporting our sponsor, Aura. Aura.com, but use the /Hawkeyes. It's very important. Go to Aura.com/Hawkeyes. There's so many people and just unbelievable amount of hackers and people trying to steal your information now. I think we all know that. Aura can help with some of that. Read all about it. Go to Aura.com/Hawkeyes. Sign up for a totally free trial. Things like Social Security number protection, all kinds of stuff. Read about the benefits at Aura.com and use that /Hawkeyes and let them know, hey, from the Hawkeye of the Storm on YouTube sent me. And that is benefiting the show immensely if you do that. Again, Aura.com/Hawkeyes. That link is in our description as well. Bob brings up exactly what my sentiment was. This game looked a lot like Kansas State. And yes, they're going to get hit at times. They're going to get gotten at times in the Big Ten Conference if they if this is what the box scores look like. But they were able to dig deep. And I think that's what Caitlin said after the game. We fought, we toughed it out and found a way to do it. Let's go back to DW, see if we got him back on our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. DW, do we have you?
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're clear as a bell now, sir. I apologize for that.
Hey, nope. It must have been my AirPods. So I was just starting to say that you had brought up one of the things I observed when watching the game was it seems like when the supporting cast for Caitlin isn't hitting shots, they aren't falling, she tends to say, okay, fine, it's on me. And she starts taking shots, like you said, early in the shot clock or forcing shots when they're not there. That was one observation I had. Now, thankfully, she hit the shot she did, and thankfully she had the points she did. But it's almost like it takes the rest of the team out of the flow of the game, where it'd be easier to hit the shots, even though they may have missed a few. They got to stay in the flow of the game, and that kind of upset the flow, in my opinion. Second thing that I noticed is we missed a lot of shots 1 to 3 feet from the bucket, a lot of them. whether they were going through people or not, but there were a lot that weren't, and they're hitting the rim and bouncing off or whatever. If we hit those shots, this game is not even close. I mean, we missed a lot down. Even Caitlin missed some. I mean, good. Sharon Goodman missed some. I mean, it seems like everybody was missing these easy shots down by the bucket. So, which is not typical of Iowa. Iowa usually hits those. So that was the other thing. And then
part of the problem, real quick, not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
DW, part of the problem I think right now is they have kind of hit a wall, I think, at the 5 position, at the 5 spot. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what like Sharon Goodman has played well in spurts. Addison O'Grady, like I saw somebody in the chat, what's going on with O'Grady? I don't have the answer to that. If it's a mental thing, physical thing, I have no idea. Tonight she played 3 minutes? 3 minutes in the game for Addison O'Grady. So there's obviously something going on. And I didn't think Sharon Goodman played all that well, especially defensively the first 2/3 of the game. I thought now maybe that some of that is how what Jan Jensen and that staff is telling her as far as how to play Audie Crooks. But to me, I thought from the very get-go, I thought you got to front Audie Crooks, and they weren't doing that. And she is such a, I'll just say it, she is such a big body.
Yeah, she's a force.
She just swallow you unless you do something to front her, send a quick double, and try to strip her. But you cannot just allow your post. I don't care how tall your post is, to allow a catch even within 15 feet of the basket. She's going to back you all the way down and swallow you up. And that's what she did a lot first 3 quarters of the game. And then late, we saw Hannah Stolke come in front her, create a steal or two. We saw the same thing with Goodman. So I felt like there were some adjustments there. But I mean, Goodman as a whole for the game, just 2 points on the night, 3 attempts. And I understand she had a pretty lofty defensive assignment, but they need more from their post, and they need to get Hannah Stolke back up.
They do. They really do, because it looked like Hannah was a little tired, I think, obviously being out the last few games and probably not conditioning as well in practice because of trying to nurse an injury. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, Monica Sonano, missing her is huge because we don't have that next post player. It's too bad we missed on the transfer portal picking somebody up out of there. I know there was that Purdue, or not Purdue, but the girl from DePaul, and she ended up going to LSU. And there was that one from Stanford, I think, that was in the transfer portal. I think we took a swing at, but
frankly, Audie Crooks was a miss. I don't know. I'm not into the women's basketball recruiting as much, certainly, so I'm no authority. But like, she was a pretty highly. I don't know what the recruiting story on Audie was, but I think she needs to trim down. Is that okay for me to say? I know she's.
Well, she needs to. Yeah. Well, I don't know about whatever. Yeah, she is definitely she's a big for sure. But I don't, watching her play, I don't think Audie Crooks really fits in Bluter's style.
Because
if you watch the bigs that Iowa's had the past few years, especially with Caitlin and her vision, they need somebody who's going to be a rim runner. Yep. And Audie, whatever her name is, Crooks, you watch her run, she was jogging most of the way down there every time. Now she was only playing, have her play 3 minutes at a time. Maybe that, I don't know, but I don't think that she fits into Bluter's style, because Bluter wants that rim runner so we can get those easy fast break points.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And frankly, the one thing about how this game was played tonight, it was played at a pace that was, acceptable and positive for Iowa State and Audie Crooks.
Absolutely. We played Iowa State's game most of the game, and not until that fourth quarter. I mean, the second half of the fourth quarter, that's when we started playing Iowa game and doing the backdoor cuts and hitting and people running down the floor. But sometimes too, it almost seems to me when it's a big game, it's a hype game, or a very hostile crowd, it seems like Iowa kind of goes into a shell. And that's when Caitlin feels like she has to force it, I think, too, because when we first played Kansas State, as you mentioned, as you entered the show, we shot poorly. It was a big game, a big hype game. We were trying to get, revenge from the previous year. And everybody other than Caitlin basically laid an egg in that
Well,
game.
but keep in mind, DW, you know this. That game was at home.
I know it was at home, but it was a big. What I'm saying, it was a hyped big game, even though it was at home.
Well, they're gonna
Now,
have
the second time we played them, they're like, okay, we played them before, so it's like they've had that experience. You see that when we lost to Creighton 2 years ago in the NCAA tournament. We saw it when we played Georgia. Even though we came out on top, we played Georgia. Georgia, we should have beaten them by more at home in the second round of the NCAA tournament. I think once they got over that hump, that's when they really started clicking. But again, the national championship game, a lot of people weren't hitting their shots that they had prior. So I mean, I don't know. That's just that's my perception of it anyway.
No, that's fine, and I appreciate your perspective, and I'm not saying you're wrong. Anecdotally, we can bring up the Drake game a year ago when they were pushed to overtime in the Knapp Center. Now, the flip side of that, to counter DW, I could bring up the game in Cedar Falls this year against the preseason favorites in the Missouri Valley and say Iowa blew them out of the water in a environment that could have been deemed hostile, a small McLeod Center up in Cedar Falls. So, but I think you're probably right on that. I mean, it's hard to play in Hilton in general for anyone. And, especially when they've had some issues, they've had an issue. Think about it. They have had this type of a box score, this type of a stat sheet at home, on the road, and on a neutral court. So I think it's clear if you're an opponent what the formula is to play them. You got to do everything you can to slow them down, get them into a half-court game, and just hope that people like Gabby Marshall, Kate Martin, Sydney Falter start missing threes, because it seems like if you can get them to miss some shots early, keep them slow as it relates to pace of play,
yeah,
then like you said, you're going to force Caitlin, or whether that's really forcing her, if she feels forced pressure to take more shots, and she's going to miss some. I mean, she took 31 tonight.
Yeah. And the shots she's missing are from the 3-point range, although she did miss a couple layups too today. But most of the times she's missing the long shots, which are easier rebounded by the opponent. So, and that's one thing I've noticed. Even last year when I was watching them play, I was like, it seems like the other players they're not chasing they're not following their shot where they could have got a rebound, or they just they wait for the ball to hit the ground before they go get it. It's like they're not aggressive enough to go get those 50-50 balls, seems like sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, I can see that. I absolutely agree with that. And it was nice to see them late in the game. I thought they got more gritty on the inside.
Yeah.
For loose balls, and won the battle of physicality over the last 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah, they sure did. They stepped up when they needed to win the game, and that's the most important thing, obviously, is winning the game. I just thought I thought we could have beat them by more. We just missed a lot of, I thought, shots we normally hit around the rim. I mean, they weren't missing. They were just missing them. They're hitting the rim, bouncing off, whatever. But I mean, we won, so that's good. I mean, anytime we beat Iowa State in any sport, I think it's great. It could be badminton, ping pong. I wouldn't care. I just want to beat them. So,
well, they got Wisconsin on Sunday, and that's on the road, and I've been told it's sold out.
Oh yeah, I mean, Caitlin is going to raise the. What's that?
I said probably more Iowa fans up in Madison than Wisconsin fans for that game.
Well, yeah, because you can't probably go see Kate. I mean, too bad I live in Washington State, so I probably won't get to see her until they come out, if they come out here again. I don't know, but yeah, anywhere Caitlin goes, that attendance is going to rise. I mean, it's probably easier for Iowa fans to go see her at away games than it is at home because of it being sold out.
No, you're absolutely right. Well, DW, I appreciate you calling all the way from Washington. Please call in again, and win's a win.
All right. We'll talk to you later, Corey. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. As you see in the banner, just a reminder to folks, if you're on social media, Twitter, or as it's called now, X, I guess, Instagram, @From the Hawkeye on those two platforms. Also, From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Facebook. From the Hawkeye, @From the Hawkeye on Twitter and Instagram, and From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Facebook. Jesse, not mincing words, says Gabby Marshall needs to get less minutes. She's a liability. We've used that term in the past, and then she's come up and, hit big threes. Listen, she didn't shoot the ball like she was in the tournament last year. They don't make it to the national championship. I think it's fair to say that. They need Kate Martin to knock down threes. They need Gabby Marshall to knock down threes. And without McKenna Warnock, they probably need a Falter or Feuerbach to fill that role. At some point, you have to hope that those players get hot. So you can't abandon them, give up on them, but I wouldn't mind seeing the minutes being distributed a little bit differently down the stretch here into conference play. They do have, I guess they've got, they've got Wisconsin, they've got Cleveland State. So they got a couple, I think 1 or 2 non-conference games here still left on the schedule. So maybe play around with the lineup a bit. Let's go to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Ben is on the line. Ben, welcome. Oh, Ben is gone. Let's go to our next caller, to our next Iowa Smokehouse. James, how you doing?
I'm good. It's good to win, obviously. Always good to be Iowa State.
Absolutely.
But like,
before you go on, who's Ben?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But I feel like it was tough, and I feel like maybe this game is better that it was tough, if that makes sense. Like, it might help them for the long run. You know, sometimes you always just don't want to always blow out opponents. Like, obviously, Iowa State, you would love to blow Iowa State, but, you know, sometimes the closer games, the tougher games make you better as the season goes on because it helps you with that, like, getting used to adversity and getting used to – I mean, obviously, these guys are used to adversity, but, like, you know what I mean? You still got to get used to, like, those tough games sometimes because not every game's going to be super easy, so.
They have, in a way, avenged the loss to Kansas State by going back to Florida and beating them. They battled through a really good Virginia Tech team on a neutral court, and they battled in spite of poor shooting tonight. So you're right. If you want to take the glass half full approach, they won without really much of any support for Caitlin Clark, won in a hostile environment, and as a team did not shoot the ball very well.
It seems like in general, like, it was tough early because it seemed like we would get a run, we'd get like 5, and then they would hit 3, you know, make it back to 2, make it back to 0. I'm just interested, how was it as like an Iowa fan? Like, were they harassing you? Were they being mean to you, or?
No, nobody was mean to me. No.
I know.
You know what?
I know Creighton is a little bit of a scene, you know, so I didn't know if it was a scene here.
Well, let me just say this. I've always said this about Iowa State fans. For the most part, I've had nothing but good experiences with Iowa State fans. You always run into what's the term? Am I using this term correctly? I'm not up on the new lingo and the modern day social media talk, James. But am I using the word Karen correctly?
Yeah,
There's always going to be a Karen or two anywhere you go, whether that be a female Karen or a male Karen. But in general, no, I like Hilton and I like Iowa State fans.
I feel like people are talking about the same. Like, obviously, Gabby, I think, is better off the bench. But I feel like it's kind of hard because, like, in my opinion, they haven't played Kylie enough this year to know, like, what she could bring, that she can bring. The only person I would say you would start is a Falter just because she brings you that defense and she brings you that. She doesn't shoot as much, but she brings you that defense and that grittiness a little bit. And I don't know how good a shot is, but she always brings you something.
Absolutely. Yeah, and she's – I guess I can pull this up. I'm guessing that she is their leading rebounder right now.
I was going to say she's rebounded surprisingly well for her, like, size. She's rebounded surprisingly well.
5 boards tonight. Absolutely. I'm going to look this up. I could be wrong. But it might be Sharon Goodman because she's getting a lot of ride at the 5. I'm just looking here on ESPN. They've got the regular season stats. So right now, Iowa's leading rebounder is Hannah Stolke, actually 6.7 per game, and a Falter's at 6.2, so not far behind her. And Caitlin Clark, 6.4. Those are your top 3 leading rebounders. Goodman with just 5.2. So you're right. Sydney's giving you a lot across the board. She's also averaging, she leads the team in steals with 1.7 steals per game. And she's given you 6.6 points per game in just 20 minutes of play. So, yeah, she's shooting 36% from 3, 59.5% from the field overall. I don't know what her per 40 is, but no, I think she's deserving of more minutes at this
To be
point.
honest with you, I think those are numbers, and I know this is going to sound kind of cliche, but those are numbers that would start for most, maybe not the top programs, but those are numbers that start for most programs in the country, just like what she can do for all around, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
but,
no, I agree. Yeah, she's the most improved player, I think, from last year's roster, hands down.
Yeah. But like we always said, we should have went to the port, obviously, and got a big. But I do feel like I feel like fronting Crooks probably, was the right idea, but I do feel like they didn't play her that bad in retrospect of, like, there was maybe a lot of fouls. They did kind of have, like, when she was shooting, their hands weren't straight up. They were kind of down a little bit, but they didn't call them. So, we take it as it goes. The one thing I think was the issue a lot of times with rebounding. We put ourselves in a lot of situations. Because I remember there was one time where Iowa State got like 3 rebounds in a row, and then they hit a 3 to make it like easier to tie to like a 1-point game. And it's like, bro, if you can just secure the rebound and get a couple of stops, I think this game would have been 15-20. But we just couldn't get a couple of stops when we need to get a couple.
They
stops.
had opportunities up 7 points once or twice, and it's like, okay, you buckle down and get a couple of rebounds, and they just couldn't do that. And credit to Iowa State, they battled and knocked down some tough mid-range shots. And again, they're well coached, great crowd, and they're young and talented. So they're going to be better moving forward, but they just lost a lot last year.
Yeah, for sure. And we knew, as I mentioned, and Emily Ryan probably would have helped them. I don't know. I mean, Emily Ryan obviously is a big loss for them too. Their point guard being out right now, which is something obviously you can't control. Obviously, as we know, as football, we know from our football stance, you can't control injuries. You just got to go with the flow of it. Unfortunately for them, but tomorrow scares me a little bit in retrospect of it's Iowa. You never know.
Yeah, I'm nervous about tomorrow. Don't get me wrong.
But no matter what, they can't say anything because the trophy's in the trophy case in Iowa City. So that's all that really matters, anyways. Football trophy's the only thing that really matters in the state. And
might as well not even play tomorrow, James.
No, I mean it really is. Like, obviously, no other game has a trophy game for a reason. Football has a trophy games for a reason, because football is the biggest profit sport, obviously. But
yep.
Obviously, you want to win. If you're the Iowa men team, they need to win coming off of kind of a bad showing against Purdue. But you just never know with those guys. You don't know if your shots are going, they're going to win. If your shots aren't going, What's your thoughts on tomorrow? Do you think who you have tomorrow?
Who
I'll
do I
put you
got
on the spot.
tomorrow?
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
I probably would pick Iowa State, but I think it'll be close.
Yeah.
I'm not inspired. I mean, I don't want to read too far into a performance against one of the best teams in the country in Purdue, but I just saw how Iowa played on the road at Purdue on Monday, and that crowd is going to be rocking again tomorrow night.
Are you going tomorrow?
Possibly, probably. I don't know. I was there tonight. I don't know if I'll be there tomorrow.
Yeah, I seen a picture of you there tonight, but
Yep.
What's your thoughts on? Obviously, I know this is a basketball show, but I want to get a couple of your thoughts on just like some of the guys that have left in the portal in football.
Was surprised by Ontario Thompson. Not surprised.
The only reason, can I be honest with you on that one? I'm sorry. The only reason I was surprised is because I seen YA is coming back next year. So maybe he knew YA was coming back next year, and he kind of maybe seeing he might not play as much with YA coming back next year, if that makes sense. And then you throw Aaron Graves at D tackle, maybe he just didn't see as much playing time there as he would have thought, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't buy that. I think with Logan Lee gone, Noah Shannon's officially gone. YA Black was going to come back. Sure, yeah. Aaron Graves is going to come back, but Kelvin Bell rotates so many guys in. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I do know that, not that I'm creeping on somebody's personal life, but last I knew, Ontario Thompson's girlfriend's up at UNI. UNI did offer him.
Yeah, I sent you that. Yeah.
So yeah, perhaps.
Which would be cool. I mean, he's an Iowa guy, but like obviously some of the other ones weren't shocking. Like I know Deontay almost left last year, so that one didn't surprise me. And the only thing that scares me with that obviously is our depth at wide receiver. I mean, we're 1 or 2 injuries away at that position from playing walk-on. So I think that hurts a little bit, but. Obviously, everybody else I think really wasn't as surprising because most of the guys are just depth pieces, obviously. And I think me and you both knew Labus was out the door after kind of the year he had.
Not surprising. Jackson Filer is a walk-on. I know he's a legacy guy, but I've not been shocked by any of them. It sounds like we're going to get another guy in the portal tomorrow morning.
Do you know who it is? I know you can't tell me, but do you know who it is? I know you can't tell me who it is.
Yep.
Is it a surprising one or is it not surprising one?
No, not surprising.
Okay. That's all I was saying. I know you can't physically tell me who it is, but
I could, but I don't think that's fair to players.
I don't want to know for personal reasons. I'll find out tomorrow when it comes out. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm assuming that the young man's going to be announcing tomorrow.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see what we do, and obviously, one thing I think that they didn't go after Crooks is like they said. I think play style. I don't think she gets someone down the court as well as like they want her to. If that makes sense, like Kaylin like. Bigs that kind of get up and and Budo expects to kind of get up and down the court. Like Monica was a great get up and down the court, but she knew her spots and like she was quick enough to where it would make a difference because Caitlin could still hit her in stride, you know. And I don't know if Audie Crooks is there at her point of their career so far, obviously, but
frankly, and this isn't a rip on Audie Crooks, but I was saying during the game, like if we're going to play a half court game, then every time Audie Crooks, instead of just, it seemed like every time Audie Crooks was in the game, Lisa Bluter and company defaulted to Sharon Goodman. Look, I know that Sharon Goodman.
I think Stolke played better on her later in the game than I felt like.
She started to front her, and here's the other thing about it, James. If I'm Iowa, one way I'm going to try to take Crooks out of the game is when I'm on offense, I'm going to be running Stolke all over the court and making Crooks follow her around baseline. And
that's what he did in the 3 too. She didn't really follow her out in the 3 the one time, and then Hannah hit the 3 because she didn't go out there because he kept moving her around, and she got open for a 3.
But I would continue to do that, and I'd make her work.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let her just stand up and walk, jog up and down the court. I would be running her all over the half court.
For sure. And I know she was one of the best women's players in state of Iowa history, but obviously I think she was just at the 1A class level. She was kind of a dominant piece, but it was fun to see a good win. Obviously you want to be Iowa State, and we didn't lose to the Iowa team this year. You and I, Drake, Iowa State, we beat them all. So that's always important as well. And obviously we can't say that for men because they don't play you and I and Drake. So
yeah, but big opportunity to sweep the sports tomorrow night.
Yeah, for sure. And I might be on. What time's the game tomorrow? Do you know? Is it 8 or 7? Is 6?
It is at 6:30.
6:30. That's a weird time. That's a weird start time, but
it is. It is a weird start time.
What channel is it on?
ESPNU.
All right. Well, I'll tune into that, and hopefully we can get the win. And you have a lot of coverage for Citrus Bowl stuff coming up.
Yes, actually, I'm glad you asked this. The plan is to have Brad Heinrichs of the Swarm on here in a couple of days, probably Friday. I'll make an official announcement about that here probably tomorrow. But we'll have Brad Heinrichs on, and then we'll have a show with Don Patterson. So yeah, lots to come for football.
All right, go Hawks, and hopefully we can get one tomorrow.
Okay, James. Thank you, sir. All right. Michael McMahon in the super chat. Thank you, Michael. I get that people say that Clark needs to pass more, but there's a breaking point where your teammates can't hit open shots and Clark is on an island. I get that, and that's part of the problem. Is it the chicken or the egg, Michael? I said this during the game. You look at the Kansas State game and the Virginia Tech game and this game. And again, they did win 2 of those 3 games, but lower scoring than you prefer for an Iowa team, closer than you would prefer, especially the games against Kansas State and Iowa State. Those are teams Iowa should beat if you're a top 5 team nationally. And of course, they lost to Kansas State the first time, won against Iowa State on the road tonight. But is it the chicken or the egg? Is Caitlin shooting more because her teammates are cold and she senses that her teammates aren't making shots early? Or does it seem like there's other factors involved with Caitlin taking a few too many shots, and that is kind of taking other players out of their rhythm and preventing them from getting going? I mean, you can look at it from both respects. I thought Caitlin shot the ball a lot early, so I would tend to go to that side this evening, like, hey, maybe she kind of set a little bit too much of a precedent offensively, taking shots. I get she's great, and I understand people that she needs to be shooting 20 to 25 shots. I agree with that. To me, just 30 plus is too many on an average night. Now, I will say this, Michael, down the stretch tonight, I was saying she needs to be having the ball in her hands every time, driving the ball to the hoop. I don't want her settling for jump shots, for settling for step backs. And that's exactly what she did. Give credit to her, gave credit to Kate Martin, her teammates. Talked about the backdoor cuts. She was finding her teammates outside. And people like Gabby, people like Kate, people like Sydney Falter, when they're in the game, Kylie Feuerbach, when they are in the game, they've got to be willing to shoot threes. And if they can't make open threes, you're going to live with that. If they're missing open threes, deal with it. I mean, you're going to have to hope that they snap out of it. Taylor McCabe might be an option. Bring her in and spell some minutes from some players that aren't shooting well, but shooters shoot. And I think that's what I would say. But it just seems like there's a lot of common denominators as it relates to these close games. And they typically consist of lower shooting percentages, more of a slower pace of play, and a lot of shot attempts from Caitlin Clark. Let's go to our next Iowa Smokehouse caller. We've got Ryan on hold. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Corey, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm good. first thing, I got to give you a little bit of credit here. Ever since you pointed out that garlic summer sausage, I just could not get that out of my mind. So, I obviously did some bad things.
Well, let's be honest. You're a bit of an easy sell as it relates to cured meats. Am I correct in saying that?
That's the understatement of the lifetime. Yeah. So, yeah, I used my 20% off discount, and I got an email that it shipped today. So pretty excited. Hope I have it for the game tomorrow. Real quick before we get into Iowa, I just really want to, and this is something I'm not one to do a whole lot of, but I really got to give a lot of Iowa State credit. 4 of the 8 players they played today were freshmen, and good Lord, that Addie Brown, she is a player. I didn't know much about her at all. All I know is a good friend of mine who's a Cyclone was really lamenting how the roster kind of got decimated last year around the portal time and whatnot. I'll tell you what, Fennelly really, I think, has built a nice nucleus for the future. I know we have a powerhouse freshman class coming in next year, assuming Caitlin leaves. We'll probably be in a similar type of situation, but really got to tip my cap to the Iowa State women's program. They fought hard and they looked really good, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, Addie Brown, what a stat line for her. I mean, it's 5-12 from the field, but 14 points, 12 boards, and 5 assists, just 3 turnovers and 2 steals.
38 minutes, yeah.
38 minutes, played a lot of minutes. And Caitlin Clark, by the way, did come off the floor for about 1 minute. She played 39 minutes in the game. But you're right, Iowa State lost a lot. Bill Fennelly is, I've heard nothing but good. I don't know Bill personally, but I've heard nothing but good things about him. I know Kelsey Jones, her family dynamic is very unique, as it was for Ashley. And was it who's the other Jones that left? The other Jones that transferred out, I think transferred down to Oklahoma. But she's going to help him as well, and she's still young. So, no, I agree with you. And I don't know what the plan is for Audie Crooks. Like, she's phenomenal. I still wonder, like, I know they don't list the weight of players for women's hoops, but, like, I still think she probably should trim down a little bit. I know that may be easier said than done, but this is sports, and we're talking from a physical standpoint, from a sports standpoint. She probably will need to trim down a little bit to be at her max potential, but she's obviously got a really good skill set. She can shoot from outside. We saw that tonight.
Right. Yeah. I guess, given her size, I thought Hannah did a nice job on 13 minutes, 6 rebounds, playing against somebody substantially bigger than her. And I was really impressed for her first game back that Hannah, she didn't score a lot, but she was very active on the boards in her limited playing time. And it's probably just a matter of time before she probably will become our 2A or 2B scoring option. Because I know we're all I think probably Kate might be, your number 2. I would love to see a lot more of Sydney. I just really love how that girl plays. She's all over the place. And I think when I think of Sydney's game, I think of winning basketball. Doesn't always have to be, the marquee scorer, what have you, but she does a lot of winning plays. And
who she fills in well for is McKenna Warnock.
That's exactly what I thought.
Not that McKenna maybe was quite as good of a defender at times, or so one thing that Sydney's got a knack for is generating steals, but her ability to get on the glass, her ability to knock down shots. I don't think we've seen I think she got a good stroke. We haven't seen everything she can do offensively from the field, but they needed somebody to replace her leadership, her grittiness, and I think they've got it with Sydney.
Couldn't agree more. And real quick on Caitlin, obviously, she's the first human being, man or woman, to get 3,750 and 750. I looked it up today. Pete Maravich's men's record, granted, it was 83 games over 3 seasons, where his father was his coach. Nepotism. 44 a game, 3,667 points. I think Caitlin might just break that. Of course, in 4 years, we know, but I just thought that was real interesting. We're focused on Kelsey Plum. That's the next big milestone, right? Do some real quick math. 3,528 would break the record. She's at 3,013 now. That's 515 points. We had game 8, right? So we could probably, let's say 30 or 20.
Game 10.
20. Is it game 10?
Yes.
So like 23 more games, maybe. Let's just conservatively say. That means Caitlin has to average 22.4 points a game to break the record.
She'll do that.
It'll all come down to health. As long as the health is there, it'll happen. And she'll probably pass Maravich as well.
Yeah, she could pass that a lot sooner. I mean, she's, and again, I don't. You gave them what, 30 games, or what'd you say, 20?
Well, you said game 10, right?
They're on. This was game 10 tonight.
Yeah, so 9-1. Was it? 1 second.
Yeah, 9-1.
9-1. Okay, so let's say it's a 33-game season, which
Okay,
so
it's 23 more games.
they get knocked out early in the tournament because Evansville comes and shocks us, right? So let's just assume a 33-game. So that's 23 more games to go. 515 divided by 23 is 22.4. So that sounds like as long as she's healthy, she's going to she'll shatter it.
Yep.
If we use the same 23, and I think she's averaging 29.6, that's 681 more points to go. She's at 3,013. That's 3,694. That would break Maravich's mark for men or women. So, I mean, pretty select company. I tell anybody that'll listen to me that Caitlin Clark's to Michael Jordan of women's basketball. And I don't really think that's hyperbole.
No, I think that's fair. And this team is going to, even though we may be critical of her taking 30 plus shots, again, the team goes as she goes, and her health is the most important of anybody in the country as it relates to women's basketball or basketball in general. She's the most important player to any team in college basketball, period.
Along that line, it's really neat to hear that Wisconsin women's basketball is like such a hot ticket nowadays. It used to be a place where you'd go study during their games, and now they're selling out.
They're sold out. They're sold out, Ryan, for Sunday.
What did Wisconsin do to turn their program around like that?
They're hot.
My goodness. It's called Clarkonomics, right?
Yep, exactly.
Hey, man, have a good one. I'll talk to you
Good,
tomorrow. I hope to God we show up and don't have those long defensive lulls where you can go
lulls. That last year they were offensive lulls last year, or 2 years ago. I'm sorry, 2 years ago in Hilton.
The thing with some of Fran's teams, when we lose, we can pretty much play 32 minutes, even with the opponent, but there's like that 8-minute stretch where it gets away from us, and then you're playing catch up, and we gotta avoid that at all costs. We gotta stay with them. Of course, I think we can win. We played them pretty well last year in Carver. We'll see.
Different team,
different everything. So go Hawks. Talk to you tomorrow. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you, sir. Yes, our RTI Threads player of the game is Caitlin Clark. Congratulations on surpassing 3,000 points. What an accomplishment. 35 points tonight for Caitlin on 12 of 31 shooting, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 turnovers. You can certainly live with the 3 turnovers. You'd like to get those assist numbers up and the field goal attempts down if we're talking about balanced basketball, efficient offense. But she was phenomenal, and they absolutely needed those 35 points from Caitlin Clark. And while we're talking about RTI Threads, I want to give a shout out to our guys over at RTI Threads in North Sioux City. Check out their apparel lines for people like Aaron Graves, Carson Shire, Cooper DeJean, Aiden Hall, Zach Lutmer, and more. Visit www.rtithreads.com. And Cooper DeJean's apparel line is at cd3lacesup.com. cd3lacesup.com and rtithreads.com. Also want to give a special shout out to Brad Van Meter and his team down at State Farm in Des Moines. Give Brad and his team a call at 515-256-6480. That's 515-256-6480 for a free quote, perhaps on auto insurance, or maybe it's home insurance, renter's insurance, business, life insurance, whatever the case may be. See how Brad and his team can save you and your family money. You can also visit him online at bradvanmeter.com, located right in the heart of central Iowa, down in Des Moines. And Iowa Smokehouse, check out their awesome meat products, their barbecue sauces, their salsas, their ketchups. I've got some of their bacon ketchup still on hand. This is actually interesting, I enjoyed some of their sweet honey barbecue sauce last night with steak. I know that makes me weird, but their barbecue sauce is so good. Try it out. Try out all their products. Visit iowasmokehouse.com. Tasting is believing. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order, and you'll get free shipping on every $50 order right to your doorstep. And this stuff keeps, folks. Visit iowasmokehouse.com. All right, couple things before we shut this thing down. First of all, I see a couple of comments in the chat that I missed. T. Hink says, was it me, Corey, or was their head coach? Who was their head coach tonight? I thought this was a college, not NBA team. The whole bench stood up during the game while it was being played. This was their Super Bowl. I did notice that. I think it was a coaching staff, a staff member on that staff during the game, on the Iowa State staff, was doing this to the crowd during the game, which I thought was kind of odd. Like players doing that, fans doing that, I get it. It was kind of an odd look. But T. Hink, I know you were at the game. You said that on Twitter earlier, so I did see what you saw. RC on the Aces, Caitlin, and Iowa. Being there from your perspective, what did you see, Corey? I think our post play was shoddy. Sharon seemed timid dealing with big body Audie. Absolutely. I didn't know. Excuse me. Is that an actual nickname? Is that you just made that up, or is that an actual nickname? I doubt that's an actual nickname. So I did think Iowa struggled on the interior. I did not like Iowa's approach to post defense early. I'm no expert, but to me, you make Audie Crooks get position and catch a pass over the top. You don't just allow her to catch it 10 to 15 feet from the basket and back you down and swallow you up down low. And, she made Iowa pay early, and I thought they made some adjustments late, and it made a difference. Sports News says, why didn't Warnock come back? She went to dental school. You'd have to ask McKenna. I don't know. I'd love to reach out to McKenna Warnock, maybe have her on the show at some point. But I think Sydney Falters, someone like Sydney, has filled that gap, but McKenna was great. And they're getting someone in next year, Tegan Mullaney, who I think is maybe similar in style to McKenna Warnock, maybe even a little bit more skilled. But she was certainly a important piece to last year's team. Jason, can Taylor go in for Gabby or Molly if one of those two are cold shooting? Sure. I don't even know, did Molly even shoot a three tonight? She did. She shot 2 threes, 0 of 2 from 3, 1 of 3 from the field. Yeah, you need more than 2 points from Molly Davis, 2 points from Sharon Goodman, and 0 points for Gabby Marshall. Those are just not numbers that are going to cut it. And again, Kate Martin had 16. Sydney Falter had 7. Hannah Stolke had 5. Clark had 35, and that's it. 0 for Gabby Marshall, 0 for O'Grady, 0 for Goodman, 2 for Goodman, 0 for Feuerbach, 0 for McCabe. And yeah, Feuerbach only 5 minutes. I don't know, that almost is even stranger than O'Grady with 3 minutes. But again, they got the win, folks. That's what's important. The Hawkeyes with a 67-58 defeat over the Iowa State Cyclones. A reminder that tomorrow night we'll have Iowa and Iowa State, the men, over on ESPNU from Hilton Coliseum, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, followed by Iowa postgame with myself and Coach Gary Close. So back-to-back Cyhawk games, big games inside Hilton. We'll see if Iowa can get a sweep. What a year this would be for the Cyhawk series and for Iowa sports if they can do that. One final thank you to RTI Threads and all their apparel lines. I mentioned them a couple of minutes ago. visit them. Check out the apparel lines for people like Aaron Graves, Cooper DeJean, Carson Shire, and more. CD3lacesup.com for Cooper's line and RTIthreads.com to browse all of their NIL memorabilia and support the cause. Support the Hawkeye cause and the cause right here at From the Hawkeye of the Storm. The Iowa women defeat Iowa State 67-58 behind 35 points from Caitlin Clark on 12 of 31 shooting, along with 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Kate Martin chipped in 16 points with 4 rebounds, an assist, 3 turnovers for Caitlin. And as I mentioned, Goodman had 2, Molly had 2, Falter had 7, Hannah Stolke had 5, Gabby had 0, and bagels for O'Grady, Feuerbach, and McCabe. Overcame a strong performance from Audie Crooks. She led all scorers for Iowa State with 15. Addie Brown had 14 points to go along with 12 rebounds, 5 assists. By the way, Audie Crooks also had 10 rebounds, 2 double-doubles for the Cyclones. Naima Dio, I'm pronouncing her name correctly, I hope, had 9 points to go along with 5 rebounds. Hannah Bellinger had 8 points to go along with 4 assists. And had a couple other players in single figures. But again, Iowa finding a way to battle a gritty win on the road in Hilton. We'll see if the men can do the same tomorrow night. Appreciate you being here for a late night edition of the postgame show, folks. Please remember to support our sponsors. If you're interested in donating, you can do so by means of Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. As you see in the bottom ticker, all those links are in our description. And again, just continue to share out the show out. Tell others about what we're doing here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Have a great one.